You're not sharing the right
Hello,
screen.
everyone, and welcome to Answer the Call. I was able to chew my food. I was eating as fast as I could before. If you guys are new here, Answer the Call is a podcast with myself, SaltEMike, and Croncy, where we talk about Star Citizen. And usually, the old podcast, basically, when it was just me, we would pick a topic and we would go with it. We're kind of going back to that a little bit, but this week is pretty busy, so we're going to talk a bit about the news, and then we'll go into the main topic of the show. So if you're joining the calls, we're not really going to talk about the Argo ATLES and some of these other things that went on this week. We really want to talk about, if you're calling in, about starter ships. And I posed the question, do starter ships need to change? I have a lot to say on this subject. I'm not sure, Croncy, if you do, but we talked about this a week in advance, so I'm sure you do. And I will just say this, me and Croncy discussed yesterday, in the future, because of the way this week was, and how busy it was.
What was looking like was going to be a mostly boring week.
Yeah. We're going to decide on, like, Friday, my Friday, Croncy's Saturday, what the topic will be leading up. So we're like, oh, it's a dead week. Let's go down our list of, like, things that we would love to talk about. Just general, like, one singular topic, nothing really about the news that week. This week, we told you a week ago we're going to talk about starter ships. We're going to stick to our word. We're going to talk about starter ships, but we will start the show with some of the news. So if you're new here, hit the subscribe button. We would really appreciate it. I think we're really close to 5K. So that would be sick. And yeah, enjoy the show, I guess. So I don't know what you want to start with. Do we want to start with get the stupid drama stuff out of the way that is pointless because it's the same thing every time they sell a ship? Or do we want to talk about the fact that they tested server meshing?
I think the server meshing test is more interesting. Let's start there, because it was we've been waiting for one of these tests for the last one was like 6 months ago, right? It was like March.
The answer is too long.
Yes.
No. We were waiting for too long. Croncy was not able to play the test because they did not run it for 24 hours. They ran it for about like 8 or 10 or something. Like, it was not long enough, unfortunately. So you missed it. I did not. Yeah. And it was mostly this. This is how I would describe the first hours of it. Was just waiting for a very long time to do anything. And like, oh, am I loading in? Am I not? I believe this was around the 500 player test. And when you did get in, and this is the very concerning thing to me, is interaction delays were just as bad, if not worse. When last week we had a Star Citizen Live saying RMQ is going to help with, I'm not going to say the word fix, but help with interaction delays. It did not. And I don't have the Spectrum post right on hand right now, but Benoit popped in and said, hey, RMQ worked great, but something else was causing more of those interaction delays. So it's like, okay, is this the next carrot on the stick like RMQ was this year? And what now, right, is the feeling that I'm getting from this? I talked about this a lot over this year with you guys, and you, Croncy, especially, is we just want to see tangible progress. Yeah. And the first 90% of this test that I did not see that, right? So it was very disappointing. And then they landed on a configuration for server meshing that comprised of, I'm trying to find my mouse, I don't know where it is, comprised of 350 players over 4 servers. So that is an average of less than 100 players per server, right? So that's still a little bit like, ooh, right? And then, but it worked somewhat. Yeah. That's me.
Yeah, I heard a lot of conflicting reports, which is like fair. I feel like with these sort of tests, you're going to imagine there's going to be a lot of people that have great experiences, a lot of people that have bad experiences.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone had a bad experience pretty much in the beginning with the 500 and 1,000 player tests.
Yeah. With those, I heard nothing good.
Yeah. Like I heard like Burks was able to get in and get some play while I was just stuck on the menu. Like some people got in, but it was very, very rare. Interaction delays early and in this test was pretty decent. Like right away I got into an elevator. Like when I'm telling you I spent 30 minutes trying to get in an elevator in the 500 player test, like I'm not kidding, right? And I would say that this felt like a small bit of tangible progress. You could see tons of players coming out of elevators, what appears to be very little desync, a little slidiness of this character, right? But the server had just opened. As things went on, it got gradually worse and worse and worse. But
I will just note very quickly on that as well with like the slidiness. Also keep in mind that like this is a worldwide test on like, I imagine US servers. So you'll also see like a lot of that sort of artifacting from people with like 300 ping. But continue. Sorry.
Yes, that is, very good point. Thank you. But as you can see, it felt pretty MMO-y. It was kind of like, holy shit, a bunch of people in a train at the same time. This feels pretty cool. Like ping was going all over the place and things like that. So like things were still weird. You can see the train bouncing around and all that stuff. But generally, this works significantly better than any of the other configurations they have done. And for me personally, this worked better than any of the above 200 player tests that I had experienced. So I did experience some level of improvement, but it was a very small amount of improvement because, well, I guess I could scroll forward to about here. And I crossed the server line like just before this. So I finally got to my ship. It says A54 as and now it says AC 450. So like I did cross some server line. I did not get knocked out of quantum travel, which was something that happened in the previous test. And then shortly after this, I 30K'd. I had been streaming for a billion hours and I was tired. I had enough at that point. There was nothing really for me to see. There was no missions. There was nothing to do really. It was like, okay, improvement. But I think from here, players are probably going to want to see more significant improvement than this. So I wouldn't say great success like some people are saying. I would say slightly disappointing, but we did see some progress.
Yeah. My two takeaways from someone who only got to experience it from, like people's, like people telling me about it pretty much. One, I was really surprised that the big tests that they did early on, they didn't do like, like right now we have one server, 100 people. They went like 6 servers, 1,000. Like that just feels like a really, like clearly you're just going for stress testing because otherwise why are you not doing like as many servers as you possibly can for the 1,000 people? And then when they did bring it down to the 350, it was more than the average, right? So I don't know, that just seemed weird from an outside perspective.
I think
but then what I want to see. Yeah, go ahead.
I remember in testing chat on the last one, they said like once they went above like 2 or 3 servers, they started to see really crazy issues that they didn't understand. So I think they just wanted to be like, bang, what does 6 servers do? So I think A/B testing from the previous one, it was like, all right, do we still have those issues? So that's what I think was going on there.
Cool. Fair enough. Well, then the other thing, I just want to see more of, like, hopefully this next week, give us another one of these tests at the 350 again. Let's see how it goes again.
Yep.
Let me in, please. Do it at a time that works for me, please, CIG.
Or just run it consistently for, and they did say they are hoping to run another test next week. So that's good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think we're just kind of hands up in the air. Maybe we'll pose this question for next week or something like that. But like, is 350 players enough for Pyro and Stanton? Do you want more? Right? I think 350 is not exactly a number I want to be at, but it is 3.5x, right? It's 3.5x what we have. So it's like, do you complain about it, or because it's not an MMO. That's not MMO numbers, and
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
opening up a whole nother area. So I'd be curious to hear what people think about that.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
in general, I would say I was definitely disappointed for the length of time we waited for that test. The improvements were not large enough, and RMQ
Yep.
to the player facing did nothing. And I'm tired of hearing about how great everything is going on behind the scenes when everything player facing is a dumpster fire. So it would be cool to not have that happen. Drama time or complaining time or ship sale time or whatever.
Let's
get
mix
it out
it
of
up
the way.
a bit because we can get into the ATLES and then we can get back into like ISC and stuff. So
Please
the
take
ATLES,
the reins here. Please take the reins because I've talked a lot and I won't talk much on this. I promise.
Oh, good. The ATLES, which is the correct way to pronounce it, it does not have a second A, and I will fight anyone who disagrees.
Okay.
Is out. It is fully out. We got to see it last weekend as like a surprise addition to the patch. Lots of people really liked the tractor beam. I'm one of the only people that's not really keen on it. But regardless of that, it came out, and a lot of people feel it as like, this is very useful. We talked about last week how much is this going to cost. We didn't want it to be for sale. It would have been a great opportunity for them to do like a reputation reward or anything else, an event reward, something like that. But the Star Citizen as Star Citizen does, it went up for sale. Yeah, pretty much. Now I didn't like that.
Did you get one?
I was like a little mad yesterday. That it was for sale. Not like a ton mad, but I was a little mad yesterday that it went for sale. But I realized something today. I was mad.
Whoa.
I realized something today. This still doesn't make the fact that it's for sale great, but is a great thing for players. Now that we have persistent hangers, if anyone would like an ATLES, come to my channel. I'll give you an ATLES, and you can keep it, and you can put it in your persistent hanger. We could do that now, which is kind of cool. So
that's true.
Yeah,
you don't actually have to buy it. You can give it to people.
Yeah,
but so you bought one. Well,
with some store credit, yes.
Store credit, sure.
Yeah.
Did you
mostly
because
of the skins? I just really like the skins.
Did you get a skin? Yeah, that was my next question because the skins were pretty cool.
Yeah.
I did not, and I will not be buying one. Yep. I'm gonna stand by my laurels. I guess is that how you say it? I'm gonna stand by my feelings on these things. I don't think these sales are good for the game or good at all. I think we nerfed tractor beams and then sold the solution to those problems in the sense of like, I believe there was a Q&A.
Yeah, yep.
And the handheld, the largest one, can't even hold 32 boxes anymore. Like, what are we doing?
It can currently, but the intention will be...
they're going to remove it.
The only way that you'll be able to with the what is it called? The Max Track or whatever, will be if you have 2 lasers on it, which... At least at the moment, using double lasers on like any box just breaks everything.
Yeah, and it's like, all right, so do I trust CIG to get that done right or whatever? So like, I don't think the optics of this is horrendous, and the price of it is very expensive, and for what it is.
Yeah.
And you have a developer in testing chat. I don't know if you saw this. He said, "Guys, it's a tool, not a cash grab. Everyone's holding on to that." And I feel bad for that guy, but he shouldn't have said that. So get fucked. But I will not be buying it. I may buy the blue skin and the black skin.
Yep.
And whenever it comes out, I will buy it in game and I will apply the skin to it. And that's how I'm going to go about it. I don't believe in supporting the project with creating a problem and selling a solution, but I do believe in supporting the project for doing the right things. So I'm going to do the type of funding that I would like to do, and that's more cosmetic stuff. So I'll buy this for $5, but I will not buy that ship for $35 or $40. I could tell you that much. Or that vehicle or that tool, whatever you want to call it. I'm not going to do that stuff. I just got a new puppy. We're learning how you have to, praise good behavior and, tell them when they're doing stuff wrong. Well, this is the type of good behavior if I if I was to say, hey, good boy, this would be the good boy
Yep.
moment, and that's it, or good girl or whatever, right? So
Yeah.
I don't care. I'm over it. I'm so tired of their bullshit, and I just want CIG to put the game first one time in their lives, and they will never do it, and I don't expect them to ever do it. And I think the more they do this, they will alienate more and more people from their player base. But they made like 1.3 million, so whoever people are buying it, and they always will. And people make claims that means that the people who don't think it's good are in the minority. But people will complain about it and still buy it because you have the option to buy it, and it doesn't matter. It still affects the game negatively, and you need to recognize that the more we do stuff like this, the harder it is to make the game. The more we do stuff like this, the harder it is to create progression and all those things. And it's embarrassing. This is the most mobile game thing I've ever seen them do. Basically.
Yeah, to speak on that a little bit, there's just because, like, once again, I used store credit, but imagine I didn't. Imagine I used actual money. Just because I buy this thing doesn't mean I approve of it being sold or that I'm happy that I'm buying it. There's going to be a lot of people who have bought this because they feel they need to. Because if they don't buy it, they're at a disadvantage.
If they give you the option, right? And that's the problem, right? Is players like the pay to win stuff. This is how you know it's real. Is you have players that hate it but feel like they need it, so they buy it anyway. Like that's the whole problem with pay to win, pay to convenience, and all that stuff. And I follow another project, and it's probably just as big of a scam as this one, and all that stuff. It's called Ashes of Creation. And the reason that I follow that project, and the reason why I'm pretty interested in it, is the guy who is running that game is an MMO player. Played another game. I always forget the name of it. Chat will correct me on this one. And he played a game, and it got super pay to win. Arcade was the name of the game. It was another MMO.
Oh, I love Arcade.
Arcade was really good, but it was mega pay to win, right? And this guy is a whale, has tons of money, and he paid to win, even though he didn't want to, because that's what you have to do. And I think CIG is going more and more and more in that direction, and that's super problematic. And I think they will eventually have nobody buying their ships because they will have nobody playing their game if they keep doing stuff like this at some point. Like, the funding numbers don't matter when the numbers of players aren't playing, right? Yeah. That's what those are the numbers that should matter. The number of new backers, the number of people in a server, the number of people playing. Sell this stupid thing all you want and pretend like everything is good, other content creators and stuff like that, but nothing is good if people aren't playing the game. So people still aren't playing the game that much with this. So that's the issue here.
Two things as well that need to happen just with this in general. We can't be waiting 6 months for this to be available in game. It needs to be much sooner. Yeah. Because it's too important in the game, honestly. And the changes that they do mention in the Q&A about tractor beams, of course, it has to be available in game before those changes get made. If I cannot lift a 32 SU box without having a friend, that's just going to make the entire gameplay loop terrible. So,
agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. And that's all I want to talk about on that. I don't think it's as dramatic as people are making it out to be. It's just another example of the same thing over and over again. So we just repeat ourselves. CIG won't learn. They'll do it again because they made $1.3 million. And they fail to recognize how it affects their game, their backers, and their player base overall. And it will continue that way.
As well as, like I said, I don't think it's as much of a bigger deal now that we have persistent hangers. I think we need to, as a community, start to get together and literally share ships. Just start doing it. It'll change things a lot. So
because you can, right? And then ISC was pretty good. I think. I hate the Zeus. I don't hate. I don't want to say I hate the Zeus. I do not like it. Yes, there is. It is another example of them. Cart before the horsing a little bit. I'm a cargo hauler guy.
Yeah.
It's horrible cargo grid.
It's terrible
terrible cargo grid.
Tight. It's tight.
It's I think it was Meyer who's in chat right now. He explained it better than I could. Any cargo grid that is 3 high, because the ceilings are so low, is not good. It's hard to work with. So they don't, their metrics are still completely off because the gameplay was made after the designs of the ships were. And anytime you're going, all right, I use 8 SCU boxes, but I can't stack them, and now I need to go 8 SCU and then 2 SCUs or 4 SCU, and then you're like just trying to sneak them in there. It's a bad experience.
So it just could make it like awkward with essentially how the boxes work.
It makes loading incredibly awkward.
Interesting.
And because the height of the ceiling is any ship that you're loading cargo in that goes just to the ceiling makes it really hard to work with. Anything that gives you space is much easier, because then you can go up and over and in. And I mean, Ironclad again for the win. You're opening the ceiling and you have a lot more room to work with then all of a sudden, right? So that's my knock on it. I love the way it looks. I like the shape.
Yeah, the aesthetics of this ship are insanely cool. Yeah. It's one of the first ships that I've seen it actually take on way more of the flavor of the concept than like necessarily others. So like the silhouette of the ship looks awesome, looks almost perfect. The external RSI design is exactly what I was expecting in a good way, with sort of all the new stuff. So
this
from a looks perspective, it's awesome. Yeah,
of what I mean, like look at how close to the ceiling that is, and you have these angles. It's not a cargo ship. Like it just, this is not a cargo ship to me. Like, it's going to be really hard to work with, and that makes me sad, because I wanted it to be my 100 SCU hauler, because I think it looks so cool, and it might be, and I might deal with it for a while, but sad on that front.
Yeah, no, I like it. Not enough to make me want to get one. I still think in that like space, like
if the grid was good,
space,
I would get one.
I think I still prefer like the Freelancer Max.
It has the same problem.
You know?
No,
I think the Freelancer Max is cooler, because the Freelancer Max is only 2 high, right?
No,
it's just
32.
Wider.
It's 3 high. 32 can go in, and a little one on top. Have you did any blockade runner testing? Think about it. There was like a 32 in there, and then there was like little ones on top. So yeah, it's the same height. It's they just, the ceiling height's the problem on some of these things. It makes it really awkward. But
fair enough.
Moving on. MFDs.
But yeah, the second half. Oh yeah, MFDs. I love these. Oh my god, do I love these? Except for the Aegis one. I just don't like the green, but I think that's purely a
just color-wise,
like personal aesthetics thing. Yeah. They are way more readable. Big fan of that. Huge fan of that.
Functional.
I am undecided yet, and it's going to be a thing of like I have to get in and actually play with it, on whether or not I like how much information has moved from like the actual glass down to the MFDs. On some ships, I imagine there's going to have to be heavy reworks on where the MFDs actually are and how they're actually displayed, because they're just awkward to look at. But in general, I think I'm keen on it. But yeah, it looks way better. I'm totally into it. One of the big things as well. So
I'll try to
the
find
changes
it. I know where
to
you're going.
I was just going to say the power triangle. The changes to the power triangle, way more intuitive. And no, it's not Starfield. It's every sci-fi game that's come out in the last 20 years.
Oh my god, I know. I know. Starfield was not first, people.
No.
Like, what the fuck?
It's way more intuitive when players come into it. It's much easier for them to understand where their power is being allocated that way, rather than when you're looking at the triangle. So it also, the fact that it's able to display, like, you get more information from like the capacity rather than necessarily how much power is into it, which you don't get from the triangle. The triangle is just a straight up value of where have you put most of your power, right?
I think I found what I'm looking for. This is probably the most interesting of the talks. It was, okay, I have X amount of power into my weapons, and the fire rate was low. Like, it was low power, and then they put it up, and the fire rate went higher. So I'll allow you guys to watch this. Like, all right, this is our fire rate. And then they like ding, 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 and put it, I don't know, I'm looking for it, but I can't find it. But basically that's what happens is they put it back up, and it's like zoom, going crazy.
Yep.
And I was like, oh shit. So we will be talking about the quickly, I guess, is that, you know what? Let's just bring it up right now real quick. Is they're going to be making some changes to vehicle loadouts. So this was a post by John Crew, and he's saying, you know, all right, we're going to like take some smaller shields and make them larger shields, and some bigger shields and make them smaller shields, depending on the ship and the role that they want them to play. Lots of changes here. I did a React video, guys, on it if you want to watch, where I went through every single one and went through Urkel and saw what was changing. What we don't know is how they're doing this because of Resource Network. They're doing the MFDs because of Resource Network. What we don't know is how power affects shields, right? And if it affects it anything, thank you, is 14:15 on the timestamp, apparently.
Cheers, Duncan.
Thank you, yep. If it has any bearing on the weapons like we're going to see here, then most likely it will have an effect on the shields as well, right? So
I would imagine
all of these changes people are freaking out by, but they don't actually know what they're freaking out about yet. So like it's okay to be like, damn, it doesn't look like my Redeemer is going to be as strong as it was. But there's the example of we turn the power up and the fire rate shoots up. That shit's going to happen to shields as well, probably. So
it's also, this is it was mentioned like 2 weeks ago about them talking about how, you know, soft deathing is going to be less of a thing. This is with that in mind as well, I imagine, right? Where it's going to be your components dying going to be the more important thing.
The problem is what's the Redeemer? The Redeemer is this like enigma. It's a weird thing and it doesn't make any sense. So they just got to like put it in a box of what it's supposed to be and then develop it that way. And you may not like that, but that's what they have to do with that ship. Because it's just weird. Is it a drop ship? Is it a gunner? Or is it a gunnery boat? Like, we don't have really gunboat ships besides that. So what does that role play? What does it look like? How does it work?
The only one that we really have besides that is like the Hammerhead, and that's a very different beast to
that's
to
like
Redeemer,
an anti-fighter one. 1305 is the shield showing allocation. This is a little bit different because they just show them what they said about shields in this part is, for now, the plan is to deliver to you with the MFDs the exact functionality that we currently have in terms of how you interact with it. So not sure power-wise what's going to happen, but when they talked about this specifically, how you interact with the MFD will be the exact same as how you currently interact with the current MFDs, along with a number of other MFDs that will be same. But I am very curious of how power allocation goes into this. So,
some other things on it. So they've moved a bunch of options that normally are held like in the actual, like, you know, press escape options menu into the MFDs. My only one concern about that is persistence of option choices. Obviously, I really want it to be the case where if that ship dies and then I get another one out, it still has all of those options ticked, because otherwise it'll be a huge issue.
I have the worst memory in the world for anything that's important, but they mentioned at CitizenCon they will be persistent. So I can remember a year back that this whole thing that they talked about, they said it will be persistent, but I can't remember I have to deposit a check, and I've forgotten for the last 2 days. So that's, my priorities are perfect.
Fair enough.
I don't.
And then the other thing they showed.
Else.
I was just saying the other thing that they showed, having your self status and target status on your helmet in the top left and top right. Once again,
if you want.
Yes, if you want. Yeah, exactly.
You can remove it if you want
to remove it. So
yeah,
but yeah, huge. Also, it's been it's such just a good UI choice to do that, and then like it felt like they didn't know if they wanted to do that for so long, and then it's so yay, good.
Yes, and in general, I'll just say, like, wrapping it up on this is extremely good UI work in comparison to anything else we've seen in this game for a really long time. I would say the second best UI to the refueling UI on the Starfarer. I just think it looks good. It's easy to read. It seems functional. Just from the video, it looks like functional. It's decent. Yeah, well, we don't really know, right? We'll see what happens, but it seems like they are like, this is what the players need. Let me deliver it, and we'll go from there, right?
Yep.
So yeah, I don't have much else to say on that. Well, it's just a we will have to see kind of thing still.
Yep.
The only other thing
I am a
will
fan
say
of a lot
on
of
it-
these changes, but I want to experience it because there's like some iffy things.
Yeah, of course. And the only other thing I'll say on it is Yogi made a post. People were like, yo, is the altimeter gone? None of this footage was on the planet's surface. The altimeter will be there, and they made a very, very big change.
I saw an altimeter.
Well,
If I might be losing my mind, I am sure that I saw maybe not the altimeter, but definitely like the altitude number at the very least.
Regardless, it doesn't matter because the change. The person who posted was like, I didn't see an altimeter on ISC. What's going on?
Sure.
And Yogi was like, it's still there. It's going to work as it does now. But the change that they're doing is when you get 500 meters from the surface, it is no longer going from sea level. It is doing a radar ping to determine how high you actually are. So you will know whether or not you are landed.
Accurate distance.
All that stuff. Actual accurate distance from 500 meters and below. So
Sweet.
They made a big change. That's a thing. So nice. And DJ makes radar. So DJ's in Twitch chat, and I think maybe he had something to do with that. I'm not sure. But he doesn't
look like he's excited about radar at the very least.
No, he's been in the trenches. It looks like.
Yeah.
Anything else?
SEL before we get So a big expected SEL all about. Really about 324 and everything that happened in the last few months. The most important questions answered pretty much right off the bat about, hey, what happened? And I forget what the second question was. But
it's pretty much what happened and what's going to happen. And it was good. I think it was pretty honest. He again, something that I got a lot of shit for because people didn't really understand the video, I guess. But he straight up said if we like the transit rework kind of thing. He was like, if I would have done this again, essentially, I would have, instead of band-aiding it like we did, I would have done the rework for the transit refactor or something like that because it caused, and ATC, I think, because it caused so many problems and it was so, that was like one of the big time wasters and it was like, okay, cool. So everyone who was saying I'm an idiot in my YouTube videos, I know what to think because I don't like to be that guy like I was right. I told you so, but that video I must have communicated so poorly of like why CIG fails to deliver. Like this was why, right? On this specific patch, it was so much breaking constantly and having to fix it.
Yeah, I liked some of his answers as well. He was like, if
honest.
possible. Yeah, exactly. And he was like, look, from a dev standpoint, I would have much preferred to, do hangars once, do freight elevators as another patch, like get this in, fix it, get this in, fix it. But we went as like this big thing that meant that there was more delays, more issues that we had to fix through and it sort of compounds. I also like that he sort of mentioned, we could have put more resources into getting this out really quickly.
Yeah.
But that would have drawn from 4.0 and Squadron. I have a follow-up question, which I would have loved for him to answer, which would have been, did it take, from your dev perspective, how many resources did it take away from testing 4.0 in Squadron? Because it certainly feels like it did. It'd be weird for it not, I mean, we only just tested,
the bullshit that 324 didn't delay 4.0 is bullshit. Anybody saying that, and I'm sorry, it's bullshit. It just is. There's no way around it. You can't. You can't sugarcoat that one.
It definitely delayed testing. It would be weird if it didn't. So how would you improve that in the future? Like those are the sort of questions, the follow-up questions I would want. But yeah, overall, I thought it was really good. It was a really, really good response. I also did love, as part of the first question, it was like, so 2 months ago you said that it was, just around the corner. And Chad's like, yeah, look, I didn't mean to say that. That was bad. Oopsies.
Yeah, shouldn't have said that. Learning trial by fire, right?
Yep.
No dates. Otherwise, people are going to destroy you. That's all I got on that. On the week.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've been peeking at Discord. You have. Cool. So we got a full waiting room.
Yep.
Waiting room closed, I would say. Because again, I got a hockey game at noon. What the hell? I never have hockey at noon. It's usually at like 7 p.m. So yeah, and somebody gave me crap,
win.
by the way. Somebody
We're
gave me
starting
crap.
early. If you don't win, they gave you crap.
We'll win. Yeah, somebody gave me crap that complaining about the fact that Jared goes on hiatus 45 times a year is the same thing as me ending the podcast early because I have something to do in my real life.
No, that person's
Jared
based.
does one live stream a week. One live stream a week. I make content 7 days a week for like sometimes 8 hours a day. I don't know how these things are the same. They're not.
Jared makes ISC.
Jared makes ISC. Jared makes SCL. But
yeah,
it's 7 days a week we're making content. And so you're delivering, like, I'm never not here is what I'm saying. Like, there's never a week where there's nothing there. There's usually never a day where there's nothing there.
I don't know, guys. It sounds a lot like Mike making excuses that he's not doing daily 16-hour streams.
Sounds like my commenters are geniuses. So, starter ships.
Yeah, let's get into the actual topic of today.
I got a lot to say.
All right, I'll let you start off because, like I've got opinions, but I don't have strong ones, I guess.
I have very, very strong feelings about this.
Yeah.
So this is definitely a topic that I chose. But for one, I'll start out with, in a perfect world, Star Citizen would not have ship sales, but you would buy the game for a AAA price of your choice.
Sure.
These days, AAA prices are all over the place. And you would join the game, go through a tutorial, and then you would choose your ship, right? And your ship could be, I think, anywhere from a Vulture down to an Aurora, I guess. But when you look at it that way, the definition of starter ship is all over the place from CIG. You have premium starter and starter and this and that. Then really just comes down to price.
Yeah.
And stuff, and it's goofy. But I think the last decent starter ship that came out was the Cutter. And you are starting to see what a starter ship really is, right? It has an interior. It has a place to log out. It can carry cargo. It has guns. And it might do something a little bit different or a little bit better than the others, right? The start of this improvement to starter ships was probably the 100i. Has an interior, has cargo, has a bed, can fly pretty well, has combat capabilities, and then it has this special refueling system that it refuels its hydrogen, right? So it does something better than the other ships or something different. And then you look back at the old ones and you have the Aurora and you have the Mustang. And they don't fit in this universe anymore. They don't make sense. They're beautiful. I love the Aurora. It's probably like my favorite ship in the world. I love it. But it needs to get bigger. It needs to hold cargo differently, maybe. It needs to have a place to access its components, and everything needs to change, right? If the Aurora is so far below what the standard is, like the game has been developed more. People know that make ships at the company understand what a starter ship is, and these don't fit that definition anymore. What are they? Are they just the cheapest way to get a game package now, and it's basically like not having a ship? That kind of thing.
So I do think they have a place in the game, specifically the Mustang and the Aurora. But yeah, not as you're describing. Like what you're describing is the kind of ship that that I would want a new player to use, or even me if I had started a new game or whatever. I would want to use for like a few weeks, like a mainstay sort of ship. The way that I see the Aurora and the Mustang, and always have since I first joined, is literally as a tutorial ship, right? This is the ship you will use on day one, and probably day one alone, to learn how the game works. You'll very quickly get enough money to rent a bigger ship, right?
And
that
makes
may
no
do the
sense to
ships a
me.
disservice, though.
Yeah, it does. I think it really does, and that makes me sad. right? Is I don't think every ship should be great, but every ship should fit the game that you made, you know? And those have just like you know, Constellation and other ships that are just older, they have fallen behind the newer ones. And it's not because they did it on purpose, it's because they can't keep up with all this stuff. And there's no reason to me why, like, if there's any reason to do a Mark II, it's on the Aurora and Mustang for me. Is like you can retire those like you did the Hornets, and you can bring back these, but they should be brought back at the starter ship price of now AAA price ish, like the Avenger Titan 60.
It's like 60
60-ish, 65 US, right? And that's really what I want to see. And I think that there is, you know, gun rack, bed, cargo, and it doesn't have to be a lot of cargo, but just enough to carry a box or loot something, right? Maybe weapon capabilities, maybe not. And then you get into the realm of like specialized starters like your Prospector, your Vulture, maybe like a cargo one at some point now that we have a cargo patch. So if they ever did another, like, I don't know if they would do another starter.
It would be the Halle.
You think Halle would be that? Okay.
Yeah, I'd get a double check on the price from chat, but I believe that's
$95.
That's cheaper than the Prospector and the Vulture, I believe.
Yeah, but cargo is like simpler, I guess. But it is.
Like, well, I mean, I was going to mention something on the price of those as well. So, like, I do agree with what you just said about like those basic starters. I still don't hate that the idea of having a tutorial ship. Like I said, yeah, it does do a disservice to those ships. But I would not be opposed to them sort of keeping it that way and then focusing on more. You know, once you do develop, you get into your Avengers, you get into your Sewlands, your Cutters, the Pisces or whatever.
Yeah.
But the important thing is the
preference at that point, right? It's just preference. I like the design, I like the look, but you know, or I really want to go down the route of industry, so I want to go this way, or I really love Origins look, so I'll use the 100i. And I just don't think staying in a ship for a day or like two, you know, is a good thing. Like a couple days or a week or a month or whatever. I don't know. It's an MMO, like grinding is a thing, and we don't know what this is going to end up being like. But nobody, I think, wants to stay in an Aurora forever. Because it's just so restrictive from so many aspects, right? There's not even a place to store anything. Like there's no inventory, nothing. It's so far behind.
Yeah, you could very well end up seeing those sort of ships go the way of like shuttles in Eve, where literally after that first day, they just become ways for you to move to another location, and that's it.
Yeah, but how good are shuttles? And like shuttles in Eve are really fucking good for what they do.
Yeah, so they're just fast as hell with tiny signatures.
Fast, tiny signatures, hard to hit, and super good align time. So align time in Eve is very similar to the spool time and stuff like that in Star Citizen, right? Is it just bang, you're ready to go, and you're there. And then people use them as scout ships, as I'm seeing in the game as well. You know what? Okay, but that's exactly what I would call them. Is a shuttle.
They would. Yeah, and they would still need a rework to be able to do all those sorts of things. So
or maybe not art rework necessarily though, but but from just what they do functionally, like the numbers behind the scenes. You got me convinced there. I'm glad we had this conversation because I never would have thought of that, and that's why I like doing this stuff. Is like I'm set in my ways. I've thought about this personally for years, and then you hear somebody else's perspective, and it's great.
With that in mind, they are useless now.
Yeah, I mean, you could do like initial bounties with the Aurora, but past that, like if you're really good, you can go a little further with it.
I would ask anyone in chat, either YouTube or Twitch, if you have had someone join the game and they've said, "Hey, which starter package do I get?" Who of you, other than maybe the option of just spend the literal minimum amount of money?
That's what I tell people.
How many of you have said, "Get the Vanguard, not the Vanguard, get the Avenger, or get the Nomad, or get the Seal," like you know, those elite starters? How many of you have said that? Because they're just, the value is so much better for those vehicles. So,
and the game visually looks like a AAA game. So like it does, the game like outwardly to people justifies the price until they start playing it. And then they're kind of, people sometimes are like, what the fuck? But visually you're like, okay, I can see myself spending 60 on this game. And then you kind of start realizing what's going on and you're like, maybe I shouldn't have done that or whatever. Right. But the, like the cutter is one that I was like, all right, man, like these are like the cutter is the Aurora to me in so many ways of like this kind of scrappy industrially starter ship. And then like, what is the Aurora? And I like your idea of shuttles. I guess we kind of have a shuttle with the 85X and sort of the Pisces, right?
Yep.
But the Aurora can go down that route, and the Mustang can just be mega fast scout ship, very few weapons or no weapons at all in the future or something like that, like for your rework wise. And I think that's
as well
really
as like the fact that they're cheap is like
cheap to
once
build.
Again, we don't have an economy, so it's like hard to judge that sort of stuff. But like the fact that they are cheap and they, even if you have insurance on them, I imagine in the future it's still going to be very cheap. They're still going to claim really quickly. Will be an advantage to them that I imagine people will still use them. In some way. Should we move on to the industry starters? Because there's a lot to be said about them.
Yeah, I wanted to touch on, because like we were talking about price. And like, just to be clear, when I mentioned price, like we would all be starting at that between $60 and $100 range. Star System might not come out in 10 years. So the price of a AAA game will probably change. So whatever the price of a AAA, like the prices of ships now are irrelevant to my discussion point. Is they should all be blanket the same price, and the player is making the choice once they enter the game. So you are entering the game without buying a ship, no more pledge garbage, and you are pledging or buying Star Citizen the game. You go through the tutorial with maybe your Aurora, like you said, and then it's like, well, what kind of player are you? And then the game lets you know if you're interested in this kind of thing, well, then these are some decent choices for you. If you're a combat player, then even the Arrow is considered a starter ship, right? So that's what I'm talking about.
Yep. What I would like to see, so the Vulture plays very well as a starter salvage. The Prospector plays very well as a starter mining ship. The Halle plays very well as a starter freight.
Or Nomad.
However, they all feel like one step separated, right? We have a lot of like we have at least for mining, we have ground vehicles, right? That are a step below. That really is probably, if you're learning that sort of mechanic for the first time, even hand mining, right? You should be doing that sort of stuff first. And I would love to see, first off, them just removing the word starter from any of those types of ships, but moving into a way where a logical sort of advancement and progression through those areas happens for a newer player. If you do want to go through the mining route, cool. You do your tutorial missions, whatever, in your Aurora. You get an Avenger. Then the missions start. You get yourself a mining tool, and it ends up going that way instead, rather than what is right now, which is buy a Prospector right now,
or a Mole, even, right?
Well, like, if you buy a Mole, how are you gonna take it around, right? Like you then need to like that. That's why it's like it's weird that it's like one step removed, because you can't. Sorry, not the Mole. I'm thinking the ROC. Obviously start with the Mole. No, like even if you have an ROC, you don't really have like reasonable ways to move it around unless you get a larger ship too. And so it's the Prospector is a starter that's 3 levels further ahead than where it should be. Yeah.
Because and the ground gameplay for this stuff isn't like, even with salvaging, they didn't do a great job with it. It doesn't hit. It doesn't feel like the starting point either, right? I will say salvaging
may be different with the missions that they're talking about coming in Pyro.
If they make bigger canisters, maybe. But if you're going through and it's like canister, and it's like a million things to sell, it is it's a little less interesting, I would say, or exciting. But yeah, I mean, I think one of the other problems is like I saw DJ loves Eve, right? So he got really excited when I was saying something that resembled a ship tree. Well, Eve can make ships a lot easier than Star Citizen can because they don't have to do interiors or anything like that, or people walking around them, right? So Eve has a lot of ships. So there are 10 mining ships, something like that, right? And they all do their individual things a little bit differently. One is, all right, well, this is when I'm going into a dangerous zone because it's a little bit tankier and I might survive a fight. And then there's one, but it has less cargo space, right? And things like that. We have a prospector and a mole. We have a vulture and a reclaimer. We don't have 15 ships to choose from and create all this sense of progression as you were talking about. Like the sense of progression they went down is like hand, vehicle, single, and multi. Those are your four choices. And that's not the best way to go about it, I don't think, personally. But that's where we're at.
Do you think they're gonna stay that route? Because I've never really said them talk about it that much in terms of industry. Yeah, they've always talked about, you know, like multiple choices for cargo within like the same sort of you know, weight limits and prices and whatnot. But they've never really talked much about, you know, different ships the size of a vulture that do salvage differently, different ships the size of a prospector that do mining differently, and so on.
Like I
would hope they do.
I'm making I wish I could make, and this puppy has consumed our lives to the point where I don't have much time to do stuff as far as making content goes. But I have a plan to make a video called "What Star Citizen Can Learn from EVE Online," and one of the things that I think is really, really important that I think that they can learn is, I guess the best example is the one that you gave, is like cargo ships. Is an MSR could easily have a special just number thing on it that you can't scan the ship, right? Something like that. And then all of a sudden a ship that has 100 SCU like a bunch of other ships, well, it has a role now that it fills. And the prospector could be something that is like really good at ice mining versus the next mining starter or whatever another small mining ship, right? Because then it's not about starters, it's about size. Well, okay, then you're talking about progression, because like Eve has Tech 1, Tech 2, Tech 3, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, you have your Tech 1 miner that kind of sucks, but it does the job, and it's really good to start with, but then you have your Tech 2 stuff, and your Tech 2 stuff you're starting to do, like, okay, well, now I'm moon mining, now I'm ice mining, and this can attach this, and that can attach that. And the just options are there. Star Citizen is not giving you enough options on a lot of the industry side of things, or most of the options are on the combat side, but the choice
I would say combat and cargo. Combat and
cargo.
There's like a lot of variation.
Yeah, but the choice is more of all right, this one has more guns, it's meta. This one has more cargo, it's meta, and then you're done. So
that I would argue that is a different issue, because at least they have the ability, whether they do it or not, whether to display the ability or not, at least they have the ability that they can, you know, modify those and make it and change it around. Whereas here it is literally there are 2 mining ships, there are 2 salvage ships, and they are vastly different from each other.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I would love to see a day where you have a couple size ships as the prospector, but just because of the name of the prospector, its radar capabilities of finding ore is significantly better than everything else. Just as a bonus. Just give it a bonus. And now you're prospecting and finding stuff and selling the ore location, you know, just stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
And I want to see that in the starter ship realm and all those things as well, right? So,
Yeah. I was gonna say, to sort of bring it back, like, and I want to see. I would love to even see more simplified versions of ships like the Vulture and the Prospector that are even more new player friendly, right? That maybe have way less cargo, but you still get to do that activity, right? That are in the realm of you know, that $60, that $70 sort of thing, where if you do want to start off as a miner, you know, you can get that game package. You get this thing that has like 8 SCU of mining cargo in there, but it's got that laser and that's all you care about.
Yep. Let's go.
That is a starter mining ship, not the prospector.
Refueling, repairing,
yeah.
Salvaging, like yeah, take it down from the Vulture a little bit, even if you want. DJ said I was so curious. I looked it up. 400 chips in Eve, 240 in Star Citizen. 10-year difference. So Star Citizen.
Yeah, I was going to say
Eve's
been out for like 20 years. So
yeah, so similar pace with SC. Okay, so
yeah.
they're moving at a good pace as far as well in game. I don't know if it's 240, but yeah, I think he's going with all of them. But I guess somewhat similar pace, and given the amount of detail, Star Citizen's pace is fairly good, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. That's really where I'm at. I want to take all the ships that would be considered starters and kind of bring them to the standard that the cutter's at. The only question I would ask before we go on to callers, because we got about half an hour left. Callers, you're going to be on around 5 minutes, and we're going to be very strict with you. Okay. What other starter ship would you want to see? We just touched on it a little bit. I said refueler. If you had a choice of something that we do not have at all now, what's missing, if anything? I think something that's not 96 SCU, but then as far as cargo goes, but the Nomad is kind of that. So like, what would you want to see personally, Croncy? And then we can ask this of the players or the callers as well.
Well, yeah, like I said, I would just want to see some of the things that are in that, you know, $150 range at the moment be brought down to a more simple version 60. That still allows me to do that gameplay. That's in the like 60, maybe even $70 range, and I'd be fine. And yes, a starter racing ship, also known as the 85X.
Or
pretty much.
The Connie snub is probably the starter racer, right?
The Merlin, yeah.
But yeah, so that's where I'm at, is like the game has grown and some things have fallen behind. And at some point, similar to the initial discussion of today's podcast, is they're going to have to focus on what is our game? What do our players do at the beginning? What is the flow that a player will experience? And starter ships, I just see them being such an integral part of that. That is your introduction for players to the game. This is the will they stay and subscribe if there's some sort of a subscription model at some point. Continue to buy gold if that's the way they go. Cosmetics, ships, because we all know they're going to keep selling them, right? Like, this is the introduction to this. And that has to be the way it is. I'm sorry, I got distracted because somebody in the Twitch chat said, stop trying to get them to focus on this gameplay. I mean, what are we doing here if we don't want them to focus on gameplay? I'm confused.
Screenshot simulator.
Yeah. It's showroom. It's a ship showroom. That's what it is.
Yeah.
So, all right, we'll get to callers and we'll go from there.
Now, Mike, you have been sharing the wrong screen to me the entire pod. Just
I was fixing my mic again. There you are.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It was my mic thing is on the same exact screen. All right, so we'll bring in Mr. Space Monkey Business to start. Hello, Space.
Space, our favorite caller, I swear. How you doing?
I'm good. To be honest, I was not prepared for the starter ship discussion. I was other stuff because so much was happening this week. But hey, stick to the plan. We can do it in the next weeks because they will be dry, as I heard.
We thought this past week was going to be dry, and it wasn't.
We all expected that, I guess. But CIG had another one for us.
And we learned our lesson as far as we won't go a week in advance. We'll give a little bit bit of lead time, but not as much.
Yeah, we'll let you guys know the topic a couple of days beforehand.
Oh, maybe. Yeah. Great. Okay, starter ships. I was also about to disagree with the Vulture as a starter because I was also thinking that needs to be like either a smaller one or the progression path needs to be different, like Croncy said, with You start with a smaller ship, then you start with hand mining, then maybe even continue with rock mining, where you get to a mission or an opportunity where you only can do the rock mining in one place until you get the next ship to transport it away. I think like having like a little base where you can just spawn or buy the rock and then drive out to whatever the open or a mine to start mining there would be also pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then you just
Yeah, like
step
imagine
it up.
imagine you go to a distribution center and you're able to rent an ROC literally at like 30 minutes at a time. That would be a sort of interesting way to start that progression for a new player to get into it, to learn the mechanics.
I agree with that. That would be pretty cool, like having a big, I don't know, cave right next to it. And it's like, drive in there, do something, collect something, and then get out.
Do you feel like in a space game, I should have mentioned this earlier when you brought it up, Croncy, but it just kind of popped in my head now. It is the rock and the handheld only, you're feeling that it's the introduction kind of to these things because it doesn't require purchase. It's not as expensive in game. It's not as expensive on the website. And if you factor in the way that I was mentioning it, like, hey, you pay a fee and you choose your route, would the rock be involved in that? Or could the rock be the example of this thing does something unique and special? So you can't mine, or very difficult to mine, certain things on the surface of a planet without one, and it's something that you need in the crafting realm, and instead of it's the starting point, it's one of the routes that you go, the hand mining and rock mining. It's one of the ways you can go after, because in a space game, I just personally feel that we should start in a ship. It should start with the player flying. It should start with the player understanding that aspect of the game, and then they could branch off into these other unique styles of gameplay, which is essentially how they developed it, right? It started with the prospector, and then when they went these other routes, and it was like, oh, it made it more interesting for a while, and then of course they let it die. But I just look at it as like, this is a path that you go that after you've mined in the prospector.
Yeah, I certainly like that idea a lot more. It's just that's not how it works at the moment, because it's just the way that
Of course.
Yeah, I would love it to be that way for sure.
Yeah, but this is an Imagine show, so we can imagine how it could be, I guess. What about you, Space?
I would also agree with that. I was also always a fan of a progression in a V shape. So you start at some point at the bottom, and then it just opens up over the time. And hand mining would also be a progression pathway where you say, okay, I started a very like easy scenarios, but then it gets pretty difficult because the environment can fuck me up. Can I even say fuck here? I hope.
Yeah.
Not too many times.
Okay. F you up, sorry. And even the rocket, like maybe just upgrade the rocket in a way where you can be protected in some way, or the suit you're wearing to get you protection
you can do that
against
now.
the environment.
You got the cold suit and the hot suit, and it works.
Yeah, like this, way to like different paths. So, and then also it ties in this point ties in also to one point I was asking myself: do I really want to at some point upgrade, like an in-game upgrade of my starter ship to the next ship, or do I want to keep the starter ship? Because even in late game, where you brought up the example with Eve.
Yes.
There are some scenarios where this could be helpful for like there is a planet with a huge, I don't know, electrical magnetical storm, and only the starter ships who have not that big of a tech can maneuver there because all the other tech is getting disturbed by all the storms or by the environment or something like this. That would be interesting.
Not just that, industry wise. Like, what if certain ships just do certain ores? Like Prospector, for example, can mine titanium just better. It gets a bonus for it, or just something as simple as that. Just simple.
Which mean our laser upgrades already do essentially that. So it'd be weird to not expand that to these other sort of options. Yeah. The thing I was going to say is you could also just bring in risk reward to that. The idea that a Prospector is cheaper and easier to replace than a mole means you could be incentivized to use that ship in the more dangerous locations where
And
the
combat
riskier
ships.
materials are. So,
Combat ships is that
Yeah.
is proving your example better than that. If we ever get to a place where we're losing stuff, combat ships that are effective but cheap, that's going to be a very cool thing. Like, all right, guys, we're going on we're probably not coming back from this one, but we're going to have some fun, right? And you just like,
everyone
all right,
get your arrows out.
Yeah, everyone
all
get your arrows out.
civilian components.
Yep, and we're just going to go ham, and we're going to have a good time, and we'll see what happens, and that's it. And, it's okay if we lose this stuff. You're not taking out your gold-plated F8. You're taking out your like somebody said, Misk Fury Swarm in Twitch chat, right? So stuff like that. So there's always that as well, and they've always talked about that, but we've never felt or experienced it yet, right? We've never felt the experience of I lost my thing, and I don't want to lose my things.
Give us some YOLO missions.
Not missions. I want like you
or
you just go.
scenarios,
You go and do it. It's a sandbox. I'm gonna go to where like Avenger was talking a lot about master modes this week. I'm going to Avenger Squadron Space, and we're going to attack them over there. And we know we're going to die, but it's going to be fun. So let's bring our arrows and screw it. It's whatever happens, happens. Yeah. That kind of thing.
One last point. One last comment and one last point. The hydrogen, like sucking mechanic. I would implement this as an upgrade you can get for a ship. I would
for all ships, right? I agree.
Yeah. I would not give that at the beginning to have like a money sink and
that it was unique.
Yeah.
To that ship.
At the beginning it's cool to have like a money sink on that with that, and then at later stages, like if you want that component, do like a special mission line to get it, and then you can implement it. Yep. And the last question I have, and maybe also asking to you, is how fast you should get out of a starter ship. You said a day, Croncy. I catered to a bit longer.
Specifically, Aurora and Mustang, I think a day.
Okay.
I think you should immediately get out of it or rent something bigger.
I don't think we can answer that. We don't have the game yet. So it's very difficult to tell how long you're going to stick around.
This is like opinion of how powerful you think these things should be, right? And for me, I don't think you should be on it for very long, but I would still like to be able to use it for, shuttling, that sort of stuff. Like it's a ship I don't use often, but I still have access to, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Same with the C8R, the shuttles from the Carrick. I also like to use them because like, oh fuck, the ship is, I said it again, the ship is somewhere else, I need to get there. I use the shuttle to get there because it's easy to call, and it doesn't take much time to call it.
Yeah. Well, all right, Space, we'll let you go. I will feel free to turn the stream on because I'm going to comment quickly on the air system from the 100i because it is...
I just have you on mute, so...
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Unmute us because it is very relevant to the conversation today. All right. Thank you, Space. Bye now. I pushed him out. Great call as always. The air system on the 100i is exactly the same thing that we're dealing with right now with the ATLES. Every ship recovered its hydrogen fuel many, many years ago. Until the 100i starter came out. And then all of a sudden, no ships did it, but this one did. The new ship sale came out. So we created a problem and sold the solution. And we did it again and again and again for many, many years. But this was one of the first examples that I can remember of them actually doing that. And so I'll bring in the next caller. And Croncy, I see you texted, so I'm going to see what that is real quick. Is it something
that was me telling you like an hour ago to change the thing because you were sharing the wrong screen.
Okay, yeah, my bad. I have to look at my phone to do it, otherwise your face disappears, as some people know. But yeah, we'll bring in the next caller here. It is Certified Gumbo, who we usually catch at the end, but we're catching him early.
What's up?
What's going on?
How you doing?
I'm good, hanging in there. Trying to stay dry. It's raining.
Yes.
Fair enough.
Lots of rain here as well.
All right.
Starter
Starter
ships.
ship. So interesting conversation point. I have a proposition because I'm listening to the previous caller and you guys talk earlier,
Mhm.
and I think that it would be a good idea for CIG to consider separating what a starter ship is and what an entry level vehicle is, because like
Okay.
to me, I would look at a starter ship as like a sedan. It's good to get around town. Like you can get around the verse. It's an entry. It's not an entry level. It's a way to expose players to the verse. It doesn't do
Mhm.
anything particularly well. It's a jack of all trades, kind of like the Cutter and the Sulin. I think right now, as far as the current ships, and I guess the 100i, I've never flown the 100i, but the Cutter and the Sulin to me fit what I would define as a starter ship. Everything else
They're
I
the
would
most recent
consider,
ones.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
And like, but if you think about it, like amenity wise, right? Like something that can carry anywhere between 4 to 8 SCU, one SCU containers, not the
Yeah,
two
yeah.
and up, but just like one SCU size containers, has okay weaponry, okay, well,
Like it's not
it
paper
needs a
thin.
bed. Yeah, yeah.
It's yeah, yeah.
Well, I think it needs the bed, it needs your armor rack, it needs
Mhm.
like gun rack, all that stuff. But it also should be really good on fuel, but maybe slow. So
I mean, the
like you can
Cutter's
get everywhere
amazing
you,
on fuel.
and I think that
Yeah.
that's a great starter ship because like you can get around pretty easily. You don't have to worry too much about running out of fuel, but you aren't going anywhere fast. So that kind of like gamifies it to where like, all right, now I need to start looking at entry level ships because like I've played around. I don't really know what I want to do, but now I've kind of experienced what Star Citizen has to offer, and I
Mm-hmm.
want to go into a specific direction.
Mhm.
So then you go from the starter ship to an entry level ship, that's where you're like Arrow and maybe the
Mhm.
Aurora and the Avenger and like a whole A, or like, you know, I don't think they have an entry level salvage ship yet. I wouldn't consider the Vulture an
No.
entry level. It's
Yeah, I think it's a little separated. It's a
too
little
good.
bit
yeah, it's a little
more advanced than
tier
what I would want.
tier too high. Like,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's like an entry level. They should define what entry level vehicles are, because these are like the basic vehicle within a profession, and there could be multiple of them per profession. That would be ideal.
Mhm.
Yep.
Because like I would look at like I'm a combat oriented player, so the Titan for me is a cool entry level combat ship because it's good for both space and air combat, but also ground engagements because you've got storage space. You can put SCU containers on there to store gear and weapons and all that stuff. And hell, now that you can put seats in there, you can turn it into like a miniature dropship if you wanted to. Like there's range there that make it, I think, a really good entry level vehicle, but not necessarily a starter ship because it's a little too good at combat to be what I would consider a starter.
Oh,
Somebody in Twitch chat's asking a decent question. If the Vulture isn't an entry-level salvage ship, is the Prospector not an entry-level salvage ship? So do you more want to go along the line of what Croncy was saying and make these like, 8 SCU mining ships and things like that? Is that what you
So
mean by starters?
well, no. So
Okay.
by starter, I would like the cargo aspect is just utility. Like that's why it's like I would say 4 to 8 SCU, because you're not really gonna. Yeah, you can do the cargo missions with those, but that's just for like I said, exposure to the verse. Like I want to try that out.
yeah, it's enough to do like deliveries as well as like move some of your stuff, right?
Yeah, because you can split the smaller size
Yeah.
calling mission up into 2 loads, and then get that so that you just have the experience.
Mm-hmm.
I would consider the Prospector an entry level ship for mining because you have the ground vehicles, you have the hand mining, and it's a miner. Like the Vulture can salvage and it can hull scrape and it can do more than one aspect of the salvage uh which is to me why I wouldn't consider that necessarily a entry level. Like it would be the next tier up. Like I think that if they had a ship that only hull scraped, that would be your entry level salvager.
Yeah.
But once you add the munching into it, to me, that's the next tier up, because you technically have enough space. Like if like you salvaged a small ship, you could still hull munch it and still have enough cargo space to get all that, the RMC and then the other, I forgot what the construction material.
Construction materials. Yep.
Sorry about the doggy in the background, by the way. I just texted my wife. I was like, she needs to go out. So yeah, I was a little distracted there, but I saw somebody in chat say what about an industry starter? Like they can do a little bit of everything. Salvage, repairing, refueling, maybe
Just change. Yeah, you just change the nozzle on the front, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I just say like make it create more create more entry level vehicles for each profession. Like and then also too with industry, like there are other aspects of like where are they going with ground mining? Like where are they going with like hand salvage and hand mining and all the, like there are other avenues to where you could take a basic starter ship, get to a location like a mining area, for instance. Like if they rework the mining areas to make sense to where like, hey, ArcCorp mining area 45 has this 10 by 10 kilometer area, and it sends out contracts, and as long as you mine in that area and then bring back what you mine to the mining facility, you turn it in, you get paid, you get rep. You could do that in any type of ship, because you could go out there and hand mine, you can go out there and you don't have to use a ship to do these missions. You just need to get to the location, do the job to your heart's content, and then you can go somewhere else. To me, that's where the starter ships go. Then you go into the entry level side where you get a dedicated vehicle that can do that, and you can do more of it, and you can do the higher end, higher volume missions. Kind of like, that's why I like the Holland missions, because they make sense from a gameplay perspective. Like you see a clear progression path, and there's flexibility at the lower end to where you don't necessarily need a bigger hauling ship, and then you can also kind of progress sideways to where like, yeah, you can haul like small quantities but higher value commodity and get paid more for it. Like I don't think that those missions are in yet, but like you can see,
I mean,
they
it kind of
add
are
that in there.
So I throughout the week have been running cargo on all the ships that they want to rent, and I've basically gone through the Cutter, which is not rentable, it was just my starter ship. I did the Nomad for a week, and I'm doing the Cutlass now. And I can do in the Nomad and Cutlass, now that I'm member rank, I was making 15K per mission with like 5 to 10 or like 10ish SCU, and now I'm making 40K per mission with a similar amount of SCU. So I with the Nomad I was doing 2 missions per. Now I'm in the Cutlass, I'm doing 3 missions per, and I'm making like 190K a run, like around that route. And it's like, you could feel that progression just because I moved up with a little bit of cargo. And like you said, there's a lot of variety within a certain cargo number, and it's kind of nice. But I will say we got about 10 minutes left, and we got to get to a couple of callers. So real quick, you want to just say your final thing so we could say goodbye?
Yeah, like I mean, that's pretty much it. Like that, I like this topic, but I just feel like it would be better to like for some way CIG to designate what's a starter and then what's an entry level vehicle.
Yeah,
because I think it would make it would
clear
the lines
path,
up a lot.
Right?
Yeah,
a clear path.
Yeah, because it's to me like entry level is okay. I'm doing this profession. Here's the vehicle I'm going to start in, and then like I can go from there. And entry level starter is just like, okay, I'm playing the game for the first time. Don't know what I want to do. I need something to get around and kind of just learn the basics of the game.
Yeah. Okay. I can get behind that a little bit. I still prefer spaces, like it expands out a little bit. But all right, Gumbo, we'll let you go, man. Thank you so much for calling this week.
Cheers.
Yeah, cheers for calling in.
Bye now.
See you around.
All right, and then we'll move on to PunjiStik. PunjiStik, can you hear us?
PunjiStik, how you doing?
Yes, I can. Hello.
Hello.
Howdy.
Hello, long-time listener, first-time caller.
Hey.
Oh yeah, welcome in.
Yeah, I guess to start off, previous caller kind of stole a lot of my thunder, but I do take issue with the current like line of thinking that's been going on throughout is a different ship for every occasion. I think that there needs to be a starter ship that goes the other direction. It's something that does a little bit of everything, either through modularity or just like equipment slots. You want to do mining, you slap on a mining attachment. Maybe it's not the best at it. Maybe you're limited to like, 2 or 4 SCU. Same with the salvaging. Maybe you're limited to 2 or 4 SCU per run, has a bit of cargo, can do in like, in a couple of runs, a single in system low entry cargo mission. And then has like the aforementioned like amenities for like weapon rack, armor rack, and maybe hygiene if that gameplay ever becomes relevant.
Is this a way that, Mike mentioned Mark IIs earlier today? Is this a way that they could Mark II, the Aurora and the Mustang, to make them that ship? Where it's like, it actually can do everything just really badly.
Listen, the idea of like the modularity idea of, okay, like I have an Aurora, it can mine, it can have a tractor beam if I wanted to, it could salvage if I wanted to, and all these things, but just not good. Just to get you into it. Just to be clear, that idea I love. I don't hate that at all. It's just very, very bad at it. But you get a sense for how it works. I'm fine with that. When I was talking about like the ship for all different occasions, that's once you get out of the starter. I think we got off topic a little bit there, just to be clear. Okay.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, to answer Croncy's direct question, I would argue against trying to rework the Aurora or the Mustang substantially, because you're back in that same situation. Because if you purchase the Aurora with the intention of doing, say, cargo or something, because it's slightly better at that, and you find you absolutely hate cargo, what do you have to do? You either have to go back to the pledge store, melt your package, get a new one, or
you're stuck with it kind of in a way.
Right. Or if they ever add the feature, you have to go all the way down to like whatever starting location you're in, get a new ship that way, and you're stuck with 2 ships.
Or all starter ships sell back for the same price and you can just replace them.
That too. That could work too.
Yeah.
But that's like a substantial like time sink for changing your gameplay style, whereas maybe you just go to the nearest station and the module you need to change it up is just readily available.
Yeah, could be. I like that idea. Don't get me wrong. I love it. So it makes things simple. It's the same friction though, I guess, is every landing zone has all the starter ships available, and you just what if you could just mix and match constantly back and forth with them and be like, well, that wasn't that fun, or I had fun with that, but I want to try something new, right? It's kind of the same concept of modularity instead of it being stuck to one ship, because eventually we hope in-game that you're going to be able to sell your ships for in-game credits and buy ships for in-game credits, that you could do that as well, just to like piggyback off your idea and do it just tiny bit differently. Is if they don't want to rework a ship and do modularity and make it do everything, you have more of the option to bounce between and do everything that way, in a very similar fashion, right?
Yeah, that would also kind of address the issue of like how do you keep the Aurora and the Mustang relevant if you had this starter ship that can do a little bit of everything, just not well.
Yeah, I don't know. So
yeah, I think that's really all I had.
All right. Well, thank you. I'm glad we're doing this, because I think the more people we talk to, the more things I never thought about and ideas like that pop up. So I appreciate it. It's fun. Thank you again for your first time call, and hopefully
we appreciate it.
We could talk to you again soon. It was good.
All right.
Later,
thank
man.
you.
Bye now.
See ya.
All right. Quick calls. They're on it. Nice.
They heard that we're finishing early, and they're like, I'll make my point as quickly as possible. Here we go.
Yeah. We'll get Sharxbyte in. Shark, can you hear us?
Sharxbyte, how you doing? Sharxbyte.
Sharxbyte.
You are muted at the moment.
Going once. Unmuted.
Oh,
Sharxbyte going twice.
come on, I've seen you race. Surely you can do this.
All right. Sharxbyte, pop back in. Pop back in when you can. I'll go quickly to Hudson Hawk. Hudson Hawk, can you hear us? We'll bring you in real quick, and hopefully if Sharxbyte's ready, we'll go to Sharxbyte.
Good morning, good evening.
Hello.
Howdy.
Starter ships. Well, personally, I'm not particularly a fan of having ships being called entry ships, as there's, God, I had such a concise argument. Now it's just gone. Just having, well, it's like who's the caller a couple callers ago? He was mentioning having like entry level, like an entry, the Prospector just being an entry level mining ship, as to allude as there's like that would, if you move on, it would be a much better mining ship. I'm not particularly a fan of that idea. Yeah, each ship should have kind of its own little purpose.
Yeah.
So, and as far as starter ships, and jack of all trades, master of none, then maybe you move on to like an advanced starter ship, which would have more of a focused goal or a focused thing.
Yeah.
You know?
We don't have a jack of all trades anymore because there's more trades. Remember when the Cutlass was jack of all trades?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't really have that.
Just kind of, I don't know, maybe have like a smaller version of the Vulture to have that kind of.
Yeah, I think Croncy's on something with that idea for sure.
Yeah.
We've gotten a lot of agrees that people want a small Vulture, so
yeah. Well,
CIG, we'll buy it. Come
Hudson. Hudson,
Yeah.
Sharxbyte's ready. I snuck you in. And I'm gonna sneak Shark in now, okay? So thanks for filling in for a few minutes. We appreciate you. And Orgops as soon as this dog is in better shape.
Right on.
All right, man. Talk to you soon.
Cheers, mate.
All right, let's try to bring Sharks in. Shark
All right,
said the push to dock wasn't working. And I think it's
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes. Hello. I have you at 200% on my side. Why the hell? Anyway.
I also
starter
do.
ships.
Sharxbyte. We kicked Hudson to hear him say, "Can you hear me now?"
We sure did. We sure did hear Sharxbyte.
Sharxbyte, press your push to talk button.
Yeah, I got it now.
All right.
Hey,
we
there
got
we go.
it. Hey. You sure?
Okay, so basically, the issue that I was having, my push to talk was apparently also bound to like Alt Tab or something like that. I was being dumb.
Oh, okay. Cool.
But so I'll try to go through these really quick. I did write a lot of notes. But as far as starter ships, Mike basically said everything that I was gonna say. It should have room for you to get around, store your stuff, bed, toilet, cargo space, quantum drive, all that stuff.
It's the Star Citizen
Aurora is
way.
not a starter
Interiors, right?
No.
Interiors are what makes Star Citizen
Yeah, it has
special.
to have an interior.
Yeah.
No.
And then basically, other than that, the Aurora is a missile, and it's not really a ship.
Yep. It's a ramming ship, right?
It's great for ramming.
So I guess it has a roll then.
And then
So that's 12 torpedoes. Let's go.
Yeah.
so the pricing for the ATLS or the ATLS, whatever Croncy calls
The
it.
ATLS.
Yeah, that is absurd. They had me like I was in a really good mood after Star Citizen Live, ISC, all that, where they were showing us all this cool stuff. And then we had some great results on the test server, and then they dropped the thing and it's $40. And I did a bunch of math. You guys can check Reddit, yell at me there if you want. But basically, I'll try not to make people's eyes gloss over. I compared it to the NERSA, I compared it to the Pulse, and I compared it to the Hover Quad. And every single one of those, if you take and try to accommodate for the fact that there were other sales and stuff going on, and the prices of those, all of those did better as far as dollars per player overall than the Atlas did. And so if they had priced this at half the price or $15 or $20, whatever, they would have almost certainly made 2-3 times as much easily. And people have argued with me on the way that I did the math. I tried to spell it out and be really transparent with how I got the numbers and where I got them from and stuff.
It costs almost as much as the original Aurora packages did. That came with Squadron 42 and Star Citizen. I know like inflation's like a thing, but this is it's pretty.
This doesn't come with a game package.
You could and you could buy Manor Lords for less than this.
Yeah, but I don't want to buy Manor Lords, Mike.
You know what? That's your fault. That's your problem.
Yeah.
Because
and then aside from that, the other thing that I have down is that I hate the changes to the Redeemer. Back when they released the Cutlass Steel, they told us that they price ships based on component size and quantity, and then changing the Redeemer's stuff, it had the firepower fully manned close to the Corsair or the Constellation. So
which
like
seems
people
to
saying
make
that it was
sense,
overpowered,
right?
not really.
Yeah.
And it's a $330 ship. It costs more than every single one of the constellations except the Phoenix.
Yeah, but again,
So
what we don't know from that post is how shields are going to work, how much health those shields are actually going to have, and we know nothing from that about armor. Nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and
So
my argument
it's a weird
there
one.
If they're going to be putting in the shield changes like they did with the Retaliator, where they dropped its health from 200,000, and they are now doing the same exact thing to the Redeemer, then they should buff the size 2 shields up to the point where they're still kind of pseudo armor until they put armor in game. Otherwise, you're nerfing everyone's ship that they spent money on and had a specific use for. And like you're right, it was a really weird ship in a really weird spot, but it was the only ship that did that, and you paid for that uniqueness. And then the other last thing that I was going to say was the 400i. They're like, oh, it has all these power plants it doesn't need. And we're like, well, we paid for having a fancy explorer ship with a lot of redundancy. So like, I guess take the other power plants offline, but leave them as backups for the engineer to connect to. Don't take them out of the ship.
Yeah,
But you're thinking about future gameplay. Like once again, did they say in that post when these changes are being implemented?
4.0. I
Cool.
think.
No, they didn't.
With
I'm
resource
assuming it's
network.
probably going to be soon, but yeah.
They said with resource network. So you
Okay, yeah, with resource network. So you're assuming that a lot of these changes are going to like the way that you're talking about the changes is affecting the ships now. With just resource network, it completely changes. So it literally is a thing of like we can't judge it because all of those ships are going to be completely different. Yeah, they might be worse, but you can't tell right now. You just actually can't.
Okay, well, I mean, so are we assuming then that or are we not assuming then that they're going to drop the size 3 shields down? Because they put another size 3 shield in the A2, for example, and it was already top of the line gunship.
We got no idea. That's the whole
Yeah,
thing.
we don't know.
These fucking guys gave you incomplete information, and everybody is making assumptions about what's going to happen. And it's like, if you want to be mad about something, it's like, what's going on with armor? What are you changing to the shields? Why are you making this post right now? What is the point of this? All it's going to do is confuse people, and that's all it's done. I'm not looking at
a lot of goodwill the last couple days.
Exactly. And it just doesn't make any sense to me. The only thing that I can gather from that post is that it's clear to me that they want industrial ships to have a little bit more tank, but we don't know how much, so they can survive fights and have a chance to get out. Out of everything else, I can't figure out what's going on. Like people saying they nerfed this, they did that. You're making all those assumptions based off of entirely incomplete information, and the post makes no sense. It's like they're trying to get ahead of something but at the same time, they're so far behind the actual changes. There was no point in saying the post in the first place.
Like they could have just made this post when
like a week
Sorry,
before
they
filter
the
all the data
implementation.
through.
Yeah, exactly. They could have just come out with this the second that they're like, all right, cool, 4.0 testing's next week.
Here's
or
what
whatever.
to expect.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Done. Right, and you have the numbers locked in. You know what you're doing. None of
Mhm.
those numbers are even locked in, dude. Like, it's
Wait,
just-
Mike, what if that's what's happening? What if we're 4.0 PTU this week confirmed?
That would be great. Anyway, thank you guys. I really appreciate you having me back on.
Yeah, no, we
thanks for
appreciate you coming on. Thank you for fixing your bike so that we
Yeah.
could get you on as well.
Yeah.
And
No, I
that-
actually the
and we don't
first
have to
time
have
I
you
was
at
on, my
200.
camera was crap, and I
Yeah.
upgraded
Yeah.
it and stuff.
Yeah, you
Nice.
sound great. You sound great this time. So we were able to hear you and everything. All right, bro. Thanks for the call.
Cheers, mate.
Appreciate you.
Yep, cool. Take care.
Bye now.
Have a good one.
All right. I'm trying to send him to the color dump, but I can't. Can you? I have no access to move him in Discord.
There we
Thank
go.
you. All right. So that is the podcast this week, guys. Thank you very much for watching. And let us know how you felt about the format. On days on weeks that it's much more dead than this week, the idea would be to get into this topic longer, get to more callers. We know there's 3 of you, including Hudson Hawk in the thing. I have to get to hockey like nowish, so it's just one of those things where this should never happen, but it has happened way more often than it ever has in my entire life. I've been playing hockey at this place for 10 years, guys. This is the second game at noon in 10 years, and they were both while we were doing the podcast and stuff.
They're trying to
So-
sabotage the podcast, guys.
Yeah. So yeah, like, subscribe, all that stuff. If you guys are on YouTube, please. We are super close to 5K subs on that.
Yep.
Check. I did it this morning early, right before the podcast kind of started, to let you guys know, hey, we're starting a little bit earlier.
Mhm.
Let us know if you want to do like pings and stuff. I was like, do I at everyone at 6:30 in the morning Eastern time? I don't think that's a good idea.
We can start a roll for people that want to be alerted and stuff, and mess around
So
with that.
we can do some stuff for that. So
Yep.
there's that. And yeah, so when we're approaching some dead weeks, which we're definitely going to be approaching because we're 6 weeks away from CitizenCon, I think, we'll start choosing some interesting topics. Maybe there can be some topic suggestions from you guys that you want to talk about, stuff like that. No matter what, Croncy, you'll choose the topic next time, since this was one I was very passionate about. I'd love to hear something that you're feeling passionate about, and then we'll go from there. But crazy week this week, and not everything good, not everything horrible. And
Lots of whiplash.
Yeah, a lot of whiplash. Hopefully next week we get a solid server meshing test, and we'll see. So we just want to see things improve. I don't want to see things continue to regress. And yeah, so fingers crossed on that. Thanks again for watching, guys, and don't forget
to answer the call.